Oh my
So,
god.
so the reason why I'm choosing this as one for you to chime in on, basically, Scooby-Doo live action series in the works at Netflix, sold to them by Warner Brothers Discovery TV or Warner Brothers TV. Now, this to me, we'll get into the nitty gritty of the series in a minute. It's not that interesting. But the real interesting part of this is the fact that Warner Brothers, huge company, massive company, owns Max, HBO, you name it, they've got it. They have admitted defeat by doing this, and also another series that they've given to Netflix as well, because they are not keeping things for their own library. They're offloading it to other companies, which is the smart thing to do. They will reap benefits for it moving forwards. Paramount Global, which we'll get to moving forwards in a later topic today, are absolutely at wit's end, and they are sinking fast because of the streaming wars. The streaming wars are over. Netflix won. And this is admissions of that, basically. So, few things to get out underway with this. It is a live action series at Netflix. It sounds terrible, I think, personally. Why is it terrible? A whole host of individuals there in terms of the producers and the writers, but the main one which we hate here is Greg Berlanti. He's on board. They're executive producing it with Berlanti Productions, so they're terrible. They're the individuals that are behind most of, if not all of, the CW shows. So that goes to show just how terrible they actually are. But like I said, the real surprise here is it's Warner Brothers Television producing it and selling it, obviously, because they have the rights to Netflix to use. Quite a big deal, actually. On surface, it just looks like Scooby-Doo. But when you dig deeper into it, the streaming wars are over. Netflix won. So, Andre, because we don't know how long we got you for, what do you think?
No, I think that your analysis is spot on. Netflix is the winner. They were always going to be the winner. Well, Netflix and Amazon and YouTube, those three, those are the real emerging winners. And for everyone else, it's a matter of just being basically catalog services or folding and disappearing, depending on how much money has been put into them. And the good thing for Warner is that Zaslav is smart enough to realize this. That if you have your own streaming service, you're not monetizing your content. The only way you're monetizing your content is by licensing it to someone else, so you get fresh money into the company because subscription fees on your streaming service ain't gonna cut it unless you're Netflix. So this is honestly what they should have done like 5, 6 years ago. There should never have been streaming wars. This is what everyone should have done. Make the content, license it to Netflix, collect paycheck, and have Netflix be the dominant format. Not dominant streaming service, dominant format. Let streaming and Netflix be roughly the same thing. That's what should have happened all along. And I think this is the first step in doing that. I mean, Sony is doing this already. The real winners of the streaming wars are those that didn't engage in it, like Sony,
Yeah.
like Lionsgate. You know, the people who
Netflix.
licensed to Netflix all along. They're the winners here because they didn't flush down billions upon billions in a pointless, unwinnable streaming wars. So I'm very, very happy about this. Of course, I'm not happy about this Scooby-Doo series being made, especially not with the creative team. I was never a fan of Scooby-Doo, so that's kind of like I feel much the same way about Scooby-Doo. As Mike does about Alf. Maybe it was a mistake of me to say that, but but so I'm not excited for the series, no matter who is behind it. But yeah, good news all around, because this is healthy for the industry. This is what needs to happen.
Yeah, I completely agree.
I'm with you.
Obviously, because you're running
Yeah.
off what
Well, and
Yeah,
as Andre said, that Netflix was basically a format, not a company. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's what the streaming war became. And think about how much they've lost because they cannibalized all the other elements of monetization along the way. Because you could always sell it to Netflix at the end of the day, but you skipped theaters, you skipped your own linear television networks, you skipped your cable products, you skipped all of those places where you could have monetized it ahead of time, and then
they
just
completely
license.
destroyed themselves.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you gutted yourself to the tune of 6 different ways you could have made money. pursue a streaming service that, as Andre said very eloquently, you can't monetize.
Yeah, exactly. That's a tragedy here. And to me, it's unbelievable that so many studio executives didn't see this. That it makes me wonder how smart these people really are, because it was perfectly obvious to us on the outside that this wasn't going to work. The streaming wars is just a new format war, and it's completely unwinnable because there's no other format there. They're just killing the golden goose that was physical media to rush in something that benefits only IT and tech companies. It benefits Microsoft because it benefits Universal, not even directly, but it benefits Comcast. It benefits people like that. But for
Yeah.
Hollywood and the studios per se, it's a losing proposition. And indeed, the
Well,
only ones who are doing somewhat okay there is kind of like Universal because of the Comcast ownership. So they kind of can make it work that way. Yeah, Tom, carry on.
well, I was just gonna say, like, yeah, I mean, the bigger problem is I know this is a TV show, but it can be said the same thing with their movies, right? I mean,
Oh
what they're
no,
doing
100%.
is spending the amount of money that it would cost to put a movie in theaters just to put it on their streaming service, and they're cutting off more than just one revenue stream, right? Because they're bypassing basically all these other revenue streams. Because television is pretty much dead now, so I doubt they make the type of money they used to off of HBO or Showtime, or in HBO. I mean, Warner Brothers already owns, so again,
Yeah.
it's kind of almost self dealing at that point. And then the same
Exactly.
thing, and then the same thing with the network television premiere. That ain't a thing anymore, right? That used to be one of the more lucrative things at the end of the line of a movie, where they get a lot of money from the networks to show these. And it's the same thing with one of these shows. What Warner Brothers is doing now is what they used to do all the time, right? Like this is no different than if CBS announced they're doing a live action Scooby-Doo series and Warner Brothers is producing it, right? Like,
Right.
okay, that makes sense. Well, and that's usually the way this stuff goes. It used to be anyway. The problem I have with this right now is you got a lot of the Snyder Bros out there going like, "Oh, this means that we could get the Snyderverse on Netflix." I'm like, "No, this is a completely different animal. Completely different animal." I mean, are you really gonna go there? Like, because they're like, well, you got Velma over here, and you got yeah, Velma is a sacrifice at this point. They dumped it all for a reason. It's not like it's getting a season
They
3.
killed her.
Yeah.
They killed her off,
And
didn't
Scooby-Doo is one of those things where, and I've said this before, I don't think there's been one time in history since Scooby-Doo came out initially that there hasn't been some form of Scooby-Doo on TV. Right? You had the original
Yeah.
show, you had the Scrappy-Doo hour and all that stuff, the Scooby-Doo movies. Then you had the pup named Scooby-Doo, and then you've had I don't know how many What's New Scooby-Doos and other revamps ever since then. Right? So
And
this is not
also,
like it's ever been something that's been out of the zeitgeist, is my
yeah,
point. Yeah.
and also Velma was a two season order from day one.
Right.
And to Tommy, I forgot one thing in there. That's physical media, DVD and Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Between the two of them, that was the single biggest additional revenue stream. That's
Well,
just
believe me,
an
I know.
unbelievable thing. Yeah, because Hollywood, it should have been in their interest to spend everything protecting physical media sales, DVD and Blu-ray. They should have done everything they could to push the hell out of those formats and keep them there and fight streaming tooth and nail because there's nothing in it for them. Instead, they did the opposite. It's quite unbelievable. I mean, the shareholders of every single studio that participated in the streaming wars really need to sue the boards for violating fiduciary duties because they even killed their DVD and Blu-rays. I mean, you can't, like most of the Disney shows, you can't get Blu-rays of that. You can get it now, increasingly, but for a good few years there, while they were pushing Disney Plus, they even cut out that revenue stream voluntarily.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
they've been
this
destroying
is
themselves
healthy.
with this whole streaming
Yeah,
wars has been a complete joke from day one.
a joke
Netflix.
is exactly the word.
Yeah.
It's been a
It
total joke.
I never understood. I never understood why people genuinely thought that the future was going to be streaming. Like it's an unsustainable system. Like you cannot sustain that. not in the way that they were doing it. And I remember, like, every other month, a brand new company was popping up with their own bloody streaming service, and everyone's just rolling their eyes eventually, going, "Oh my god, come on!" And then you ended up now it's just like TV. Disney's going back and basically doing like a TV service. It's a joke.
It's the .com bubble all over again.
Mm. Yeah.
But where everyone thought this was the biggest thing, and it kind of was in a sense, just not the way that they thought, and everyone who was late to the party lost millions on it, apart from the studios who lost billions of other people's money.
Yes. Yeah. That is very, very true. Very, very, very true. Oh dear. Do we have anything else to add to this? Because I think this signifies the end of the streaming wars.
I mean, as far as the streaming wars go, I agree with you, Mr. H. This is clearly the end of it. But it also is showing good business practice on Warner Brothers' behalf. And this is also a show that, you know, the winds are changing, things are shifting. We knew this was happening. Zaslav was one of the first ones to come out and say it. And he's not dumb. He had one of the most popular streaming services with Discovery Plus, right? I'm sure I told it before, because that's what I used to ask everybody when these streaming services first started. What do you have and what do you watch and all that kind of stuff? And what's your habits? And I'm not talking about like people in the chat here or personal friends. I'm talking like family members, people outside of the YouTube sphere and entertainment sphere.
Yeah.
And the one thing that everybody kept saying, you know, most people had Netflix or Amazon Prime as a base. But the one that everybody kept having and what stuck out to me was, and this was way before Zaslav was even part of Warner Brothers yet, was everybody was saying, "Oh, Discovery Plus, we got to have that." They'd be like, "What do you mean?" And be like, "Oh no, we got to have that because otherwise we can't watch this, we can't see the extras for this and that and the other." So I'm like, wait a minute, that is something that I've never heard anybody say yet. Like I've never heard anybody say, "I got to have Netflix," right? Or "I got to have HBO Max." But I heard several people tell me that are my friends and family outside of the entertainment sphere that Discovery Plus was something they had to have. So I know that was why they brought Zaslav in over here, because and HBO Max, for better or for worse, has had its ups and downs, but this is a smart move. And Zaslav has been making a few smart moves when it comes to the streaming stuff. He's been allowing a lot of other stuff to be licensed out and is not keeping it so exclusive anymore. And he even said that was kind of a stupid idea to begin with. So yeah.
Tom, you and I started praising him almost right away because he was one of the few TV executives who will retool, reboot, redress a show if it's not working. That was one of his staples, especially when it came to the reality television.
Well, because he was responsible for Discovery to begin with, and then he revamped it all. Like he threw his baby out the window with the bathwater because it just wasn't working anymore. And I know some people were very, displeased with what happened, but the results speak for themselves, unfortunately, right?
Well, and think about how quickly, and this speaks to Andre more than probably anybody else here, thinks about how quickly he retired a bunch of bad debt.
Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah. His fiscal management has been very impressive. And here's like the thing, if you want to fix Hollywood, really what you need to do is kind of like clone Zaslav right now and install him in all the studios, especially Paramount. Paramount desperately needs a Zaslav of their own. If they had a Zaslav, he could turn that place around in 6 months.
He's not perfect.
And it only goes to... Yeah, no, he's not perfect. He's not, obviously. But he has made better moves than most other studio executives in a shorter amount of time, considering what he took over, where it is, like his debt and everything like that. And considering all of those things, it's even more impressive what he has accomplished with Warner in a relatively short amount of time. And probably he does it only to flip it to someone else, but he really is doing he recognized the fix him upper, and he's doing the refurnishment and making it shine right now. Still a work in progress, but he's getting there. So I'm very, very happy and impressed with what he's done so far. Unfortunately, I do have to drop out though.
No, that's all good, man.
Thanks, Andre.
Happy travels, man.
Thank you. Yeah. Cheers, Rods. Now,
care.
the big travel was last week. Then I'll tell you about that sometime. That was something. Now it's just a bus trip, and I just have to preserve some battery till I'm back again.
Yeah,
All right,
no.
man.
And just to wrap up the Zaslav thing, like, yeah, no. Do I agree with everything he's done? No. Has he done some bad things? Yes. But at the end of the day, I've seen a lot of people go, fire Zaslav, and trying to get that thing trending. It's like, do you think they're really going to fire the guy who has the biggest movie of last year? And so far, the biggest movie of two biggest movies of this year? Ain't going to happen.
No.
Right. And not only that, Wonka was one of the first things that was under his belt that was greenlit. And that was a surprise hit.
Yeah, it was.
So, I mean, they're not going to fire him. He's doing well. Absolutely. So, yeah.
And all the people who want to, that's because they suffer their own mini TDS, because he's the orange man bad of Hollywood. But let's not forget that.
Yeah. All right, dude. Well, we'll say farewell to you now. And we'll
sorry I have to go, but again, happy birthday. Glad to have been here at least a little while, and see you all later. Take care.
Thank you so much. Take care, man.
Yeah. Now, did they say in this series if Scooby-Doo is actually going to be in it, or what is it going to be? Is this another Scooby-Doo show?
Series. So,
yeah, they've said that before, and then he doesn't have Scooby-Doo in it.
Well, that's all we've got to go on. But we do have a super chat here from Horseradish Power. It says, live action Scooby-Doo, is Velma going to be portrayed by that annoying bint Zendaya? Might be something of an upgrade after Mindy Kaling. She could then solve the mystery of how she keeps getting acting jobs. Oh, and Velma being killed by Scrappy was ha 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 ha. I agree. Very funny.
Season 2 ended.
Yeah, apparently so. So
good. It's probably the best thing that happened in the show, especially if it sticks.
Yeah, my God, so funny. Right, well, we will shuffle on, guys. Got